Yeah, and then a couple of friends of mine, Will Lee and Jason Calacanis, said they both said, "Hey, you should really use Twitter to get your message out." And also, somebody's tweeting in your name and they're saying crazy things. So I was like, "I'll say crazy things in my name."
Did you have to pay them?
No, they. I'm not sure who it was, but it was for some reason. I don't know. I got my account back.
Great.
And then I was just, I don't know, to some degree it's like just sort of, I just started tweeting for fun, really. And my early tweets were quite crazy. As I was trying to explain, like, it has, the arc of insanity is short, in that it's not very steep, because it started off insane. And so if it's still insane, it's, it hasn't changed that much. Yeah, and I don't know. It seemed kind of fun to, I think I've said this before. It's like, some people use their hair to express myself. I use Twitter.
Yeah, I love that.
Why do you like Twitter so much? I mean, you could use Instagram,
as
for
opposed
example,
to other
but
platforms.
yeah, exactly.
Well, like, I don't trust Facebook, obviously, and then Instagram is fine, but it's I think not exactly my style. It's hard to convey a sort of intellectual arguments on Instagram. It's hard on Twitter too, but it's but you can't. It's so. Instagram is also owned by Facebook, and I was like,
Deleted.
Yeah, I just deleted it. It's like I don't really need to just, if I need to say something, I only really need to say it on one platform, pretty much. And so if I'm trying, and I don't want to spend too much time on social media, so it's just like, okay, if people want to know what I'm saying, then they can just sort of go to Twitter. I'll just keep doing that as long as Twitter is good, I suppose, more good than bad. Yeah. Crypto scammers are really...
I understand that.
They've been taking advantage of Vincent recently.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
Yeah, there's like 10 Vincents out there.
Oh, right. Well, they copy everything and just like change one
Yeah,
little
they
thing.
use my avatars and then the picture, and then they just post like right below
Yeah.
your tweet,
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And they blocked me too.
We fight them all the time. We're always like reporting them. Like every day we report like 10 people. Yeah.
Yeah, I have so many, exactly, conversations with Twitter, like, come on. Can you just, I think it would take like 3 or 4 customer service people to just look at this, it's crypto scam, block it.
It should be easy.
It should be easy.
But then, like, my wife, Vegan Shelley, I think you liked her tweet the other day. She got banned for like replying to one of your tweets and quoting like the video inside of it, and then she got suspended for like a day or something. I was like, "What the heck is going
strange,
on?" Yeah. So it's just weird how the algorithm works.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot of manipulation, but going back to the Wikipedia page, it's kind of interesting. Just
Sure.
What a decade you've had. I remember I was reading somebody's article. I think they interviewed you in 2009 or something like that, and they said, if you had met Elon Musk in 2009, right after the recession, they're like struggling with the Roadster. You never would have thought that you are where you are today. You're, launching astronauts into space.
We will be, hopefully.
Well, this year, servicing the International Space Station. I mean, Tesla with the Model 3, the Model Y, electrification really, without Tesla, it would not be where it is today. You see where the other legacy automakers are, they're not doing great. So, looking at kind of like this, like you've become this legendary figure, and looking at kind of like how people kind of see you, kind of the Ashley Vance biography or Wikipedia page, what is it that really kind of sticks out to you or, makes you laugh? Like, that's just completely off base.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned that I kept getting referred to as an investor in like a bunch of things. And it's like, but I actually don't invest really except in companies that I help create. So I only have, the only publicly traded share that I have at all is Tesla. I have no diversity on publicly traded shares.
It's like us.
Yeah, nothing. So, that's right. We're quite unusual. So, almost everyone diversifies to some degree. And then the only stock that I have of significance outside of Tesla is SpaceX, which is a private corporation, and then in order to get liquidity, which is mostly to reinvest in SpaceX and Tesla, and occasionally in provide funding for much smaller projects like Neuralink and Boring Company, then I'll actually take out loans against the Tesla and SpaceX stock. So what I actually have is whatever my Tesla and SpaceX stock is, and then there's about $1 billion of debt against that. So, which it's this is sometimes taken to imply that I'm claiming that I have no money, which I'm not claiming. But it's only to make it clear that you'll see some number, some big number in Forbes or something. People will think I have the Tesla and SpaceX stock and I have the cash, and I'm being somehow I'm just sitting on the cash and doing nothing with it, and hoarding resources. I'm like, no, it's the only alternative would be to say, okay, let's give the stock to the government or something, and then the government would be running things, and the government just is not good at running things. That's the main thing. I think there's a fundamental sort of question of consumption versus capital allocation. This is probably gonna get me into trouble, but the paradigm of say communism versus capitalism, I think, is fundamentally sort of orthogonal to the reality of actual economics in some ways. So what you actually care about is the responsiveness of the feedback loops to the maximizing the happiness of the population. And if more resources are controlled by entities that have poor response in their feedback loops, so if it's a monopoly corporation or a small oligopoly, or in the limit, I would say a monopolistic corporation in the limit is the government. So, this is not to say people who work at the government are bad. If those same people are taken and put in a better sort of operating system situation, the outcome will be much better. So it's really just what is the responsiveness of the organization to maximizing the happiness of the people, and so you want to have a competitive situation where it's truly competitive, where companies aren't gaming the system, and then where the rules are set correctly, and then you need to be on the alert for regulatory capture, where the referees are in fact captured by the players, which is and the players should not control the referees, essentially, which can happen. I think that happened, for example, with I think the zero emission vehicle mandate in California, where California was really strict on EVs, and then the car companies managed to sort of, frankly, in my view, trick the regulators into saying, okay, you don't need to be so hardcore about the EVs, and instead you say fuel cells of the future. But fuel cells are, of course, many years away, so forever. So then they let up the rules, and then GM recalled the EV1 and crushed them in
Exactly.
a junkyard,
That's
which was against the wishes of the owner.
I mean, they all lined up to buy them, and they wouldn't let them buy it.
I mean, Chris Payne did this great documentary on it, and it's the owners of the EV1, which by the way wasn't actually that great of a car, but they still wanted the electric car so bad that they held a candlelit vigil at the junkyard where their cars were crushed.
Oh wow!
It was like a prisoner being executed or something like that. That was literally.
I know.
And
So
when
painful.
is the last time you even heard of that for a product?
Right.
GM stops the product. I mean, what? I mean, listen, man, they're not doing that for any other GM product.
No.
Have you thought about doing the EV2? it's kind of sometimes hard to get through these guys, you know. So anyway, I think that's a very important thing. So generally, we could see like these oligopolies forming, or duopolies, and then you get effective price fixing, and then they cut back on the R&D budget. Like kind of a silly one, frankly, is like candy. Like there's a candy oligopoly, and it's like we don't see much innovation in candy.
So you're still working on the candy company.
Crypto candy, is that?
Boring candy.
Boring candy. Wasn't
boring
it?
candy?
It's going to be boring candy.
I haven't seen a candy yet that's good enough to send out, but and it's but I think it's there's like 3 companies or something that control all the candy in the world pretty much.
It's crazy.
And dog food. Yeah, there's somebody constructed like this. It's this crazy conglomerate, and it's like dog food and baby food and candy, and it's like all, you know,
All the brands.
A rendering.
yeah.
Hundreds of brands.
Yeah, you think you're buying from different companies, but it all funnels up to like 3 companies or something like that.
Don't send the rendering food to the candy company.
Yeah.
Yeah, big candy.
So you want to have like a good competitive forcing function, so that you have to make the product better, or you'll lose. Like if you don't make the product better and improve the product for the end consumer, then that company should have relatively less prosperity compared to a company that makes better products. Now the car industry, you know, is actually pretty competitive, so that's good. So then the good thing about a competitive industry is then if you make a product that's better, it's going to do better in the marketplace.
Definitely.
So this is Gene Wilder's old house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. That's
I saw the
amazing.
photos over there.
It's lovely. Thanks for having us here as
Yeah,
well.
thank
It's
you.
really special.
Yeah, it's a cool spot, and it's got a solar glass roof.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Version 2, right?
We didn't notice it, but
Yes.
when we checked it out the second time.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my 3, so I'm waiting for version 3. Well, whatever they're going to put on, I don't care.
Give me version 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, we saw it at the store in Torrance. Actually, they've got it in the stores now. Yeah. Looks really good.
Well, it's actually designed such that you don't notice it. So, because like this, look at this old house. This is it's an old house. I don't know, probably 50 years old, something like that, and it's quite quirky. So if you put something on that was like that didn't blend in, that it would not look right. It would be pretty strident, and this had a black comp shingle roof. So I was like, okay, let's see if we can actually have it weave in and still feel natural, look good, and and I think it's sort of achieved that goal. But yeah, this is a lovely, quirky little house. I'll show you around afterwards. It's got all sorts of weird things. It's exactly what. Sorry?
Is it Frank Lloyd? Right?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just built in increments over time by probably several people. But they would have just knocked it down and built a giant house here. So it's like,
So glad they didn't.
yeah, it's super cool.
really amazing.
So, Gene Wilder is one of my favorite actors, actually. So he's great. Awesome movies.
So when you come up with a product like the solar glass roof, I think a lot of people misunderstand that like your goal is to bring these crazy technologies to market and really create a change in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fascinating that you do it through companies, and it seems like the fastest way to create that feedback loop and to really like go from inventing something to millions of people using it right away.
Yes.
So it seems like buying a Tesla is almost like the best thing you could do to help the climate crisis, because you're like turbocharging R&D and products and innovation. I feel like not enough people really understand that.
Yeah, that is. I think there's lots of good things people can do for the climate, but just generally anything that is moving towards sustainable energy, whether it's sustainable energy generation through solar or with an electric vehicle. Actually, just things like better insulation in a house is really effective for energy consumption. But oh geez, Marvin. It's ingratiating. That's Marvin the Martian.
Oh.
I actually got him a little for Halloween, a little knitted Marvin the Martian cap. So he had the little, the helmet with
Yeah.
it looked super cute.
You got enough, buddy?
So did you always know, like, business was the way you wanted to kind of attack these problems versus, say, maybe a nonprofit or, working as a college professor or something? I don't know.
Well, when I was in high school, I thought I'd most likely be doing physics at a particle accelerator. So that's what I was, physics and computers. I mean, I got distinctions in 2 areas, in physics and computer science, and those were, some of my 2 best subjects. And then I thought, okay, well, I want to figure out what's the nature of the universe, and so go try to working with people, banging particles together, see what happens, and then it sort of things went along, and the superconducting super collider got canceled in the U.S., and that actually was like, whoa, what if I am working at a collider? It's been all these years, and then the government just cancels it.
Wow.
And then was like, I'm not going to do that. So it's like, so well, we roll back a little. Like I was trying to figure out when I was a kid, I had like this existential crisis. I don't know, I was about 12 years old or something, and I was like, well, what does the world mean? What's it all about? Are we living some meaningless existence? And then I made the mistake of reading Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, and I'm like, whoa, don't do that. Not you need to be a little older, I think. No, and actually, lately, these days, I sort of reread it. So I was like, he's not that bad. He's got issues. No question about it. But it's anyway. But then I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, which is like quite a good book on philosophy, I think. And it was like, okay, we don't really know what the answer is, obviously. But the universe is the answer. And really, what are the questions we should be asking to better understand the nature of the universe? And so then, to the degree that we expand the scope and scale of consciousness, then we'll better be able to ask the questions. And understand why we're here or what it's all about. And so we should sort of take the set of actions that are most likely to result in us understanding what questions to ask about the nature of the universe. So therefore we must propagate human civilization on Earth as far into the future as possible, and become a multi-planet species to, again, extend the scope and scale of consciousness and increase the probable lifespan of consciousness, which is going to be, I think, probably a lot of machine consciousness as well in the future. And that's the best we can do, basically. And yeah, that's the best we can do. So, and thinking about the various problems that we're facing, or what would most likely change the future, when they were in college, there were sort of 5 things that I thought would be. I thought these were actually these. I would not regard this as a profound insight, but rather an obvious one. The internet would fundamentally change humanity, because it's like humanity would become more of a superorganism, because the internet is like a nervous system. Now suddenly, any part of the human organisms anywhere would have access to all the information.
Amazing.
Instantly.
Neuralink.
Hey, well, I can imagine if you didn't have a nervous system, you wouldn't know what's going on. Your fingers wouldn't know what's going on. Your toes wouldn't know what's going on. You'd have to do it by diffusion.
Oh gosh.
And and the way information used to work was really by diffusion. One human would have to call another human.
Or actually go
write
there.
them. Yes, like if it was a letter, you would have to write a letter. You'd have to hand that letter to another human. That would be carried through a bunch of things. Find another person would give it to you.
Inefficient.
Extremely slow diffusion. And if you wanted access to books, if you did not have a library, you don't have it. That's it.
Right.
So now you have access to all the books instantly, and if you can be in a remote, mountaintop jungle location or something, and have access to all of humanity's information if you've got a link to the internet. This is a fundamental, profound change. So that's one thing. I was on the internet early because of in the physics community that was pretty normal, although his interface was almost entirely text and hard to use. But then another one would be obviously making life multiplanetary, making consciousness multiplanetary, changing human genetics, which obviously I'm not doing, by the way. There's a thorny subject, but it is being done with CRISPR and others. It will become normal to I think to change the human genome. It will become normal.
Like, what's the opportunity? Like, why is that something that's inevitable? Or
well, I think for sure, as far as say getting rid of diseases or propensity to various diseases, then that's gonna be like the first thing that you'd want to edit out. So it's like if you've got like a situation where you're definitely going to die of some kind of cancer at age 55, I prefer to have that edited out.
yeah, definitely.
So I think it's just edit that out. There's the Gattaca sort of extreme thing where it's not really edited out, but it's like it's edited in for various enhancements and that kind of thing, which probably will come too. But I'm not saying arguing for or against it. I'm just saying this. More likely to come than not down the road. Yeah. So then AI, really major one.
So these are all big motivational factors, to keep our consciousness going.
Oh, and it's sustainable. Yes. Yeah. So sustainable energy. So sustainable energy actually was something that I thought was important before the environmental implications became as obvious as they are. It's simply because if you mine and burn hydrocarbons, then you're going to run out of them. Because it's not like mining sort of say metals, for example. If you we recycle steel and aluminum, and because that's just it's not a change of energy state. Whereas if you take fossil fuels, you're taking some from a high energy state, converting it to a low energy state like CO2, which is extremely stable. So whereas we will never run out of metals, not a problem. We will run out of mined hydrocarbons. And then necessarily, if we've got billions, ultimately trillions of tons of hydrocarbons that were buried deep underground in solid, liquid, or gas form, whatever, but they're deep underground. You sort of move them from deep underground to the oceans and atmosphere, you will have a change in the chemistry of the surface, obviously. And then there's just a certain probability associated with, well, how bad will that be? And the range of possibilities goes from mildly bad to extremely bad. But then why would you run that experiment? That seems like the craziest experiment ever. Especially since we have to go to sustainable energy anyway. Why would you run that experiment? It's just the maddest thing I've ever heard. I'm not saying there shouldn't be some use of hydrocarbons on Earth, but there just should be the correct price placed on CO2 production. And the obvious thing to do is have a carbon tax. It's a no-brainer. I don't know, 90+% of economists would say this, and I think of physicists, and it's just the market system works well if you've got the right price on things. It's very, very simple. And if you've got a price of zero, effectively, or very low, then it's people will behave accordingly. So it's just that's the thing that needs to get done. I think it will get done. And then if over time, as you raise the price on carbon, you can actually, I think, encourage sequestration technologies over time. And there'll be a lot of innovation in that regard. And that's the right way to do it.
So you had these realizations about, areas of big value, and you went and started Zip2. You sold it, got 20 million cash. You were the largest shareholder of PayPal at the time. eBay acquired it. I think you got 160 million or something like that. You have enough money basically for an entire lifetime. Why go and put your money into SpaceX, which is a huge risky operation, or Tesla? Why not just kind of relax.
Sure. So yeah, basically, I graduated from Penn with basically physics and economics, and then we actually did a road trip to Stanford with Robin Wren, who was in my physics class, and now works at Tesla actually.
That's cool.
Yeah, and he grew up in Shanghai.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a very smart guy. He ended up continuing at Stanford, and I ended up going on deferment a couple days into the semester. But I was going to be studying material science and the physics of high energy density capacitors for use in electric vehicles. So the intent was I was going to go, okay, I'm going to work on energy storage solutions for electric vehicles. And I'd worked at a company called Pinnacle Research for a couple summers that did high energy density capacitors. I was going to try to do effectively like a solid state version of what they were doing with it's going to get very complicated from a technical standpoint, but they were using a ruthenium tantalum oxide. Ruthenium is extremely rare and expensive. You cannot scale that. So it's like, can you find a substitute for ruthenium? But we're able to get to energy density is comparable to a lead-acid battery, but with incredibly high power density. So,
What do you want?
I can go down a deep rabbit hole there, but
What's the purpose of a supercapacitor in an EV?
Ultracapacitor.
no, I think with the advent of high-energy lithium-ion batteries, a capacitor is not the right path.
What was your thinking back then, though, that made you think it could be useful for EVs?
I want to use advanced chip-making equipment to make capacitors that were precise at a molecular level. So at the, just a level of precision that was sort of unheard of in capacitors. Like capacitors, energy is a function of its area and a separation distance. So if you can have very tiny separation distance, and you can inhibit quantum tunneling. Like I said, how deep things get pretty esoteric. So you're going to inhibit quantum tunneling, get a very short gap, and then you could, in theory, get to very high energy densities by making capacitors in the way that you would make an x86 processor. And since there were tens of millions of dollars going into chip making R&D, that I thought there might be a way to make an advanced capacitor using chip making equipment instead of the conventional means.
So is it off the table? Ultracapacitor?
It's unnecessary.
Okay.
Interesting.
It's unnecessary. I think it's probably physically possible, but it's unnecessary at this point.
I mean, I know a lot of people were talking about Maxwell, and they'd been working on some stuff with capacitors.
But the funny thing is that when I was doing my internships at this advanced capacitor company called Pinnacle Research, which was in Los Gatos, we talked a lot about Maxwell. And Maxwell was also trying to make high energy density capacitors. Now Tesla acquired Maxwell.
It's so
Full
cool.
circle. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're looking forward to that investor day.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal.
That's great. Great to know.
Maxwell has a bunch of technologies that where if they're applied in the right way, I think can have a very big impact.
Like the dry electrode stuff?
That would be one of them.
Oh,
That's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
okay.
Much bigger deal than it may seem. Yeah. And there's a few other things.
With the space that it takes up for the ovens, that for the current technology, you can save all that real estate space now. That's one aspect, and the cost reduction, the weight savings. I mean, there's so many pluses, right?
Yes, I mean there's many things there, but I'll have to wait until whatever battery day,
Sure.
which is hopefully in a few months. But I think we've got some pretty exciting things to share. So.
Gally's very excited.
Yeah. It seems like the pace of the innovation of the battery thing has just taken off. Like since you guys have more capital and being able to like have the gigafactory be vertically integrated, just seems like no other car company is making that many batteries. So they're not even thinking about what comes next. But that
They're not
huge
even,
bet,
man.
Not even come close at all.
Taycan 201 miles.
Not even.
That's a joke.
Yeah, no, it's true. the other car companies just really want to outsource battery technology, not even making like this battery module and cell, but they're obviously outsourcing the cells, but even outsourcing the modules and the packs.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they're really not thinking about fundamental chemistry improvements, and there's some pretty deep wizardry at Tesla on this front. I should say a bit about like electric vehicles or sustainable energy in general. You know, I said it was pretty, I think, obvious to not just to me, but to a lot of people, even go back 30 years or longer, that we must have a sustainable energy solution.